So we're now going to do our greenhouse effect sketch of science. We're going to kind of use this little picture here to show what is happening in our greenhouse effect. All right, so again, you've already drawn your sun, the bottom of the paper is the Earth's surface, and then we've kind of got this kind of representation here of the greenhouse gases in our atmosphere. So the sun is shining, and so that means visible light is going to come down and enter our planet and enter our Earth. So let me draw my arrows here, and I'm gonna write here, right, this is step number 1, visible light enters Earth and 50% is absorbed by the surface, right? So our visible light comes in and strikes the surface. Now, wait a minute, you might be wondering, but Ms. Basor, what about the other 50%? Well, that's because we know, right, that some of that sunlight, some of that radiation coming from the sun, it's not going to get in. 50% is reflected, right? So remember, you know, not all of the radiation from the sun actually enters and hits the ground, right? We have our atmosphere that's going to reflect and absorb some of that. So I'm just going to add some yellow here over my pen. So again, visible light, right, is going to enter Earth, and only about 50% of that is actually going to reach the ground and the surface, right? The rest is going to be reflected by clouds or by the gases in the atmosphere, or it might even hit the ocean and then bounce off the ocean and then go back out and not get absorbed. So that is step number 1 of the greenhouse effect. And as we know, this visible light is going to be shining on the ground. It is radiation transferring heat from me to you. So that means the ground is going to get warm. So I'm going to put this down here for step number 2. Earth's surface warms, right, because it's sitting in the sun. Earth's surface warms and gives off infrared radiation, right? Which we know another word for this is heat, right? So the Earth's surface is actually going to give off radiation, right? Because it's sitting in the ground, it's getting warm from the sun. So I'm going to draw kind of a little bit of a thicker arrow here, right? And so this is our infrared radiation. I'm going to be coloring in these arrows red. I'm just going to do a little bit right now and then come back to it. So the infrared radiation, right, that is, and draw another arrow over here as well. Start setting up my starts of my arrows, right? This infrared radiation is going to come rising off the ground. But, and the reason why I kind of stopped my arrow there is we have these greenhouse gases. So some of that infrared radiation, it will go out. It will definitely, you know, go out into space, right? It'll leave our planet, but there is some of that that is going to hit the atmosphere and it's going to go back down to the surface, right? It's going to get reflected. So I'm going to draw my arrow here, right, going back down, right? So some of it goes out, but some of it'll go back down. And this is what's going to keep Earth warm. So I'm going to write this here as number 3, and then I'll finish drawing in the rest of my arrows. Okay, so step number 3, escaping infrared. Escaping infrared is absorbed by greenhouse gases. escaping infrared is absorbed by greenhouse gases, and some is radiated back to the surface. I'm going to finish writing that here. And some is re-radiated back to the surface. All right, so now I can go back in and kind of finish my arrows here. Again, I'm going to kind of put them a little bit behind my words. I'm kind of doing this 3D picture here. So these arrows go out. This arrow is going to come back down. I'm going to draw another arrow in here. Again, you'll see how I get this to color in just a second. Let me sketch out what I'm going to draw. All right, so let me add in some color here. So again, this red, we're using red to represent the infrared radiation, and we can see, right, some of it is going to go out into the atmosphere. This arrow continues up here and out. And then I'm also going to add here, right, H2O, that's one of our greenhouse gases that is doing this. Carbon dioxide, that's one of the gases that's doing this. We also have CH4 with us, our methane. So the greenhouse gases, right, they're the reason why the infrared radiation is going to get trapped, and that's going to keep Earth warm.